particular session will not be about how to be a professional actor or actress. That's not the goal, okay? And I'm not also a professional actor. I am a teacher. And as a literature teacher, my goal is to basically equip us with basic knowledge on acting and improvisation. These are tools necessary for us to be able to be an effective teacher of literature or English in the classroom. As we read passages in different texts, whether be it short stories or novels or probably drama, or maybe in poetry reading, basic acting and of course improvisation along the way is necessary so that our reading of literature will not be dull and lifeless. So as we talk about this session in speech and theater arts, we will basically talk about the fundamentals of acting. But first, we have to define what's acting. Acting, the performing art in which movement, gesture, and intonation are used to realize a fictional character for the stage, for motion picture, and of course, also for television. And theater arts in general, because we have to give life to the character that we are portraying or interpreting, right? That's why basic acting is important. According to Francois Joseph Talmain, an extreme sensibility and a profound intelligence is what acting is all about. What do we mean by that? When you talk about sensibility, it talks about you being able to connect with the fictional character as you connect with your audience. Okay, in speech, we talked about Aristotle's rhetoric, and we know that our goal as interpreter of the text and messenger to our listeners is very crucial. And in the same manner that in theater arts, in literature, Aristotle also talked about what we call as vicarious experience or experiencing on behalf of someone else. We feel the pain, the sorrow, the struggle, the joys, and all of the emotions felt by the fictional character. And our goal as actors, as interpreters, as teachers, is to be able to convey those emotions of the fictional character and interpret it so that we can deliver it properly to our students, to our audience. Now, one of the things that I keep on mentioning is improvisation. What is improvisation? We don't have the luxury of time to deal with it in an extensive manner, but just a background for all of us. Improvisation involves interpretation without a scenario. So that means there is no setting compared to that of a stage play or that of a production. In improvisation, you create your own scenario based on what is available. And what is available is just you and your ability to speak and act. That is improvisation. More so, improvisation is acting without a script. It means that you are not given anything to memorize or to deliver. You are just given probably an idea or an event or a scene that you have to portray. And everything else will be about your acting, your movement, your facial expression, your dialogue, and your overall ability to maximize yourself impromptu. Okay? It's very intuitive, and it actually is the art of possibilities. It means that if I, for example, ask you to improvise, okay, from the word improvise, okay, improvisation. If I ask you to, for example, improvise on a scene that you are drinking coffee, so you don't need a cup or a mug. You just have to pretend that you are preparing your coffee and you just drink. That's improvisation. Basically, when we were kids, we experienced a lot of improvisations when we were playing. Have you ever acted as if you are a superhero? Remember that when you were a child, you are improvising that you are Superman and you're trying to do this, and then you would fly, maybe you have props, you have cape, or maybe not. But the moment you characterize yourself that you are the superhero, then you are already improvising. In the classroom, in literature class, it is essential because it gives us an opportunity to be creative in the way we interpret. Now, how do we act realistically? There are a few things that I want us to take a look at and probably remember. Of course, number one, understand basic emotion. And when I say basic emotions, I'm not asking you to deal with complicated emotions. I'm only asking you to look for basic emotions and be able to understand and identify those emotions. And of course, all of us as human beings, we already felt these emotions. What are these basic emotions? We have anger, we have happiness, fear, and sadness. These are the 4 basic emotions. From these 4 basic emotions, you can just continue to explore other complicated emotions, such as being mysterious, such as being, for example, experiencing rage. That's the extreme anger, or probably being crazy. Okay, it's like you portraying that you are happy and at the same time you are afraid, you are fearful, and there's a bit of sadness. Okay, just like the iconic Sisa in Philippine context. You're looking for Crispin and Basilio and you are maximizing all of these 4 basic emotions. Another tip is for us to identify ourselves. Which among the basic emotions do you think can you identify with naturally? If you are naturally a happy person, then might as well focus on happiness and develop it further. Start there because that's your strength. So look for characters that you would portray that are basically kind of low tune and happy and does not require a lot of intricate emotions. If, for example, you are typically a very serious person, then might as well consider characters that are in anger or probably in sadness. May pagka-emo in Filipino, they say. So look for characters that you can work on and try to use that as an exercise. Read lines that are apt with your natural tendency to be serious. Okay, in the same manner that in fear and in other emotions, you can also identify. Now, it is also important, and I keep on emphasizing this in my previous lessons, to study the piece or the text. So that means as a performer, as an actor or an interpreter in front of your audience, you have to do your part in studying the text. Understand who the character is, what's happening, the background, the theme of the story, and that adds to the way we portray the character. Of course, needless to expound on that, I have previous videos on that, so might as well go back to it. Next is to stop acting unrealistically. That means stop being exaggerated, do not be off, okay? Do not be dull, lifeless, or be inappropriate in the delivery of your character, your portrayal of the character. One way that can help you is to probably record yourself and watch it. If you cringe, or probably, of course, in the beginning, there are things that you have to still learn, and there are moments that you would feel like your acting is off. That's why you have to keep on practicing and develop it. Okay? So stop being unrealistic. Stop being too exaggerated. Okay? And part of being exaggerated is excessive gestures. That's why the next point is to avoid excessive gestures. So do not move your hands too much or your head too, too destructively, because that adds to how it looks off when you watch yourself. If you are doing an activity that requires you recording yourself performing, then your acting should be on point, not too exaggerated, not too big, and just be, simple and communicate with the camera. But if you are acting on live audience, on stage with people watching you, then your movement should be a little bit, not exaggerated, but bigger, because you are performing in a crowd. And of course, the view would be different compared to a camera. Camera is close up, so you don't need to be exaggerated. Just play on your facial expression, a bit of minimal gesture if needed. Of course, do not move your hands or not move at all. It's also essential to move your hands and probably tilt your head in different directions. Okay? So avoid excessive gestures. Match your voice with the character's tone, and of course, the event. And that brings us back to what I said a while ago, to study the text first. Because when you study the text, you understand that the event or the scenario requires for this kind of performance, this kind of acting. It should match, as well as your voice. For example, you are portraying a character that is angry. Then you have to heighten your voice a bit. But if the character's portrayal in the text requires anger without shouting, then you also have to tone your voice down but still make it a bit forceful. Okay, so for you to be able to communicate that you are angry, it requires a lot of preparation actually. Acting is not just who you are in front, but a lot of it is who you are before you perform. That means what you do at the back. You study, you take so much time reading and writing and studying the text and researching on the background. This gives us more edge when you perform and act. Okay, so the next thing is to watch and observe good actors. That means you have to not copy them, do not copy them, but look at how they do it, because it gives us more learnings. When you observe good actors, probably your favorite actors and actresses, then it gives us more insight on how to act. Okay, how do these actors deliver lines? And what makes it connect to us as audience? In the same manner, that's the thing that we want to also happen when we perform. Okay? And of course, another thing is to watch yourself in front of the mirror or probably record yourself. It's important to practice in front of a mirror where you can see yourself. Okay, so imagine if you are the audience of yourself, you will watch yourself perform. Are you going to be happy with your performance? So before that happens, you have to practice a lot in front of the mirror. And I know it sounds a bit crazy, it sounds a bit off, especially when there are people around you. But of course, don't do it with people around you, or probably tell them what you're doing. Okay, don't just do walling while people are watching you, or just cry in front of people, or just shout. Okay, it's not a prank. Okay, so you have to practice in your private time. One good thing is to record yourself, because in recording, you can observe a lot of things. You can play it back and observe your eye contact. Okay, it's important, your eye contact, the way you move your mouth, your lips, the way you deliver lines, and how you move in general. Okay, these are things necessary for basic acting. Okay, now there are several activities that we can do in the classroom as a teacher, and of course as someone who's also learning acting. And of course, some of it I already asked my class to do, such as storytelling, oral interpretation, dramatic reading, speeches, so many of them. But another thing that I want to emphasize is by asking your students to choose a character that they want, they can identify with, and from that character, create a short narrative, a script that they do on their own. Probably a 3 to 4 paragraph speech only that will serve as a monologue. Why do we do that? We do that because number one, we want to test if the student understands the character in the text. So by writing his or her own script, that would enable us to see if the character is seen in the script faithfully as it is presented in the text. Okay, so that's your way of testing if the students understand the text. And of course, the delivery or the presentation, the acting part, will now test the creative side. So you are now not just looking at the acting and the improvisation or the performance part of literature, but you're also looking at the way the students understand the text. So you are hitting two birds with one stone as you do that. Okay, so it would be advisable if you ask your students to choose their own character, because by choosing their own character, they would evaluate themselves, their likes and dislikes, what they can identify with naturally. If they are naturally a happy person, they would probably look for characters that are lighter and easier to perform and happy in overall atmosphere and tone. And if you are a serious type person, then of course you look for characters who can match your natural tendencies. those things would enable us to understand the students better as well. So there are different purposes for doing this activity. If you have questions, feel free to let me know about it so that we can develop more content like this or answer you. If you are my student, I'll be able to answer you in different platforms as you ask me those questions. So thank you very much for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next session. Bye everyone!